Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a wild 18-month surge in space technology that has, basically overnight, flipped the intelligence gathering capabilities in South Asia. Let's get right into it. Check out this staggering contrast. For 60 long years, Pakistan's space agency Suparco moved at a pretty slow, incremental pace. We're talking just 9 satellites placed in orbit over 6 decades. But then, bam, 6 satellites launched in a mere 18 months. I mean, that is a historically unprecedented acceleration of an Earth observation program. As the source material points out, this isn't just a simple fleet expansion. We are looking at a fundamental reimagining of Pakistan's orbital architecture. It's a massive strategic inflection point that is actively reshaping the regional balance of power right before our eyes, bringing some profound implications for deterrence. So here's our flight path for today's explainer. We'll cover the 18-month surge itself, the catalyst behind it all, Operation Sindoor. Then we'll decode the actual spy tech, look at China's enabling role, India's temporary intelligence gap, and finally, what this new space race means for the future. First up, the 18-month orbital surge. To really wrap our heads around this, we need to look at the sheer scale of the hardware deployed between January 2025 and April 2026. What is super fascinating here is how these 6 distinct launches aren't just random. They form a deliberately integrated surveillance ecosystem. You've got POXAT-1, PRSEO-1, and PRSS-2, which laid down a solid baseline for medium-resolution imaging. But then, things shift gears. They launch HS-1, and finally, PRSEO-2 and EO-3. Each of these fills a highly specific niche to build comprehensive coverage and serious analytical depth. Moving on to Operation Sindoor, the actual catalyst here. We really have to look impartially at the event that dramatically exposed the urgent need for space-based situational awareness in the region. Okay, so while the initial orbital surge began in January 2025, it was the multi-domain conflict of Operation Sindoor in April that acted as this stark, undeniable catalyst. That brief conflict proved to Islamabad, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the critical operational value of real-time orbital reconnaissance. And following that realization, we see the rapid launch of the advanced HS-1 satellite by October, culminating in April 2026 when the surge was officially completed with PRSEO-3. Now let's decode the spy tech, because to truly understand the military advantage gained here, we have to unpack the specific aerospace technologies packed into these recent launches. The crucial piece of the puzzle here is hyperspectral imaging. Now, unlike standard cameras that just capture broad visible light, like what's on your phone, hyperspectral sensors collect information across hundreds of narrow, contiguous spectral bands. And why does this matter so much? Because it cuts right through standard military concealment. We're talking about distinguishing natural vegetation from artificial camouflage netting, identifying specific soil compositions, and even, get this, detecting chemical residues left behind on the ground. Having the right camera is only half the battle, right? You also need the right revisit rate. This is essentially the frequency a satellite passes over and photographs a specific geographic point. You literally have to be staring at the exact right target frequently enough to catch subtle military movements or infrastructure changes before they completely disappear. And that brings us to the orbits. Most Earth observation platforms use a standard sun-synchronous orbit for, generic, consistent global observation. But the 38-degree inclined orbit, that is a deliberate departure. It is optimized specifically to maximize passes over the 20 to 40-degree north latitude belt. That's a corridor perfectly encompassing Pakistan, northern India, and Jammu and Kashmir. It's not just scanning the globe blindly. It's basically a dedicated, continuous stare-down of a highly sensitive theater. So, when you combine these specific assets, the reconnaissance gap narrows significantly. You take HS-1's camouflage detection and hyperspectral imaging, and you pair it with PRSEO-3's 38-degree orbit and insanely high revisit rate. The result? It's the ultimate toolkit. It's the ability to see right through military camouflage, combined with the ability to check that exact spot almost constantly. Let's shift to China's strategic enabling role. Because honestly, none of this would have happened at this incredible speed without a structural enabler in Beijing. China's role was absolutely foundational here. 5 of the 6 launches used Chinese Long March rockets lifting off from their Jiuquan and Taiwan facilities, and this was backed by deep co-manufacturing support. But the kicker? China didn't just launch these satellites for them, they fully integrated them into their own Yaogan and Galfin networks.
This creates a persistent surveillance loop that serves the strategic interests of both Islamabad and Beijing simultaneously.
This convergence creates what our source perfectly describes as a de facto Sino-Pakistani space surveillance consortium over the Indian subcontinent, with imagery available every 2 days. Just think about that for a second. Every 2 days. Any Indian force posture adjustment is potentially visible to adversarial intelligence at an alarming frequency. It severely erodes the operational security that India has historically relied upon. Which brings us to India's temporary intelligence gap. Because exactly as Pakistan's capabilities surged upward, India experienced some unprecedented simultaneous setbacks on its side of the seesaw. Look at how this played out. In May 2025, India loses its EOS-09 radar imaging satellite. Just months later, Pakistan successfully launches its advanced HS-1. Then, in January 2026, another devastating blow. India loses its Anvesha hyperspectral spy satellite. Both of India's losses were due to third-stage failures of the PSLV, which is traditionally their super-reliable workhorse rocket. This tragic coincidence essentially destroyed India's most advanced platforms right at the exact moment Pakistan successfully deployed theirs. The source describes this new dynamic as an acute intelligence asymmetry that alters the calculus of deterrence, and it creates a temporary but highly dangerous window. In any future crisis, Indian commanders might actually be operating in the dark regarding adversarial movements, while Pakistani planners possess unprecedented situational awareness. It's a massive, fundamental shift in the information balance during a really volatile time. Finally, the new space race. So, what should you actually take away from all this as we look toward the future of South Asian space dynamics? Well, the source outlines 3 forward-looking impacts. First, India's natural response will likely be to aggressively leverage its burgeoning private space sector. We're talking companies like Skyroot, Dhruva, and Pixel, to accelerate their recovery and fill this near-term surveillance gap. Second, China is highly likely to continue deepening its technical integration with Pakistan. They might even add synthetic aperture radar, which lets you see straight through clouds and weather, to Pakistan's fleet. And third, all of this profoundly shifts crisis stability in the region. Paradoxically, it could either reduce uncertainty by making everything visible, or it could dangerously increase the risks of preemptive strikes. Which leads us to a final, pretty crucial question. Can New Delhi adapt its space strategy as rapidly as Islamabad has transformed its own? I'll leave you with this provocative thought. The space above South Asia is literally no longer uncontested, and the regional balance of power right now, it rests firmly in orbit. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking great questions, and I'll catch you next time.